Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to We Die Like Men, and I'm Mike. And today's video is all about fishing, one of my favorite sports, one of my favorite things to do. I didn't get out a ton last year. Matter of fact, I don't know if I got out at all. A lot of personal stuff going on that had to be taken care of. But oh, I can see I set my camera all up and forgot to hit save on the settings. Oh well, get the wife's backdrop from her channel. Anyways, I'm not going to go back and rechange it all now. I just kind of wanted to spend a little time. It's spring. It is May 5th right now, and it's 73 degrees here in southern Maine. It's nice. It's a little warm out. Speaking of that, that's what I didn't do. Let's turn that on. Get things set up here. There, my fan on. Um, just going to go over a little bit. I think fishing's great. Something fun to do. It's obviously, depending on where you live, but chances are there's a place somewhere near you you can do a little fishing. It doesn't have to be expensive. We do tend to spend a lot of money on it, us guys and everybody that likes to fish. But you don't have to. It doesn't have to be, thousands of dollars or even hundreds of dollars. You can literally go to your local Walmart and for probably $100 buy pretty much damn much so everything you're gonna need to fish what you want to fish for, or at least some fishing. I living in Maine, I love all types of fishing. I'm big into fly fishing. I like just getting out there with my spinning rod. I like fishing in the ocean. I like creeks and brooks and streams and rivers and ponds and big lakes and the ocean and whatever. I just like fishing. If my boat's in the water, I'm fishing. If I'm near water for any length of time, I'm fishing. Growing up in the western mountains of Maine, a lot of things up there are fly fishing only. A lot of the rivers, small ponds, some of the small lakes, we call them, there's a few that are called lakes, but if they're really not. Hard to explain. I've spent time down in Florida, and literally, if someone dumped their cup of coffee out in the woods, it's lake coffee. Sorry, Southerners, but you call everything a lake, even though you've got some big ones down there, but they're tiny. We got a few that are called lakes that are probably no more than 3 or 4 miles long and maybe 3/4 of a mile wide. Typically, that's considered a pond around here. Um, Obviously, you get out west in the Great Lakes; they're massive. But we've got lakes around here that are 20 something miles long and 12 miles wide. And, we've got a few that are 300 foot deep. In that range, anyways. Big, deep, cold water lakes. Really good trout and salmon fishing. Different species of trout. You got brook trout, also known as a square tail, sometimes when they get big enough. Lake trout, togue, they're called, and a few others. We do have bass, mostly smallmouth. We do have largemouth bass, but mostly smallies. Pickerel, pike, white and yellow perch. We've got crappies, or however you want to call them up here. I believe they're the black crappie. They'll get about that big around. Oh, probably about yay thick. They get pretty big. I mean, I've seen some bigger, but the average ones are probably about like that. Sunfish, other types of panfish, and just a handful of others for our freshwater. We've got some catfish. They don't get real big usually. Most of them around here, maybe like that, by about that big around at the head. Eels. I've caught one. I don't like snakes. Thing's too much like a damn snake. I wouldn't touch it. I was like 4 or 5. My father wouldn't touch it either because he doesn't like snakes either. Or didn't. He's passed away now. But you get into the ocean and we've got, striped bass, bluefish. We've got mackerel, pollock, cod, haddock, big bluefin tuna that come up through here. Different varieties and species of sharks, rays, and all kinds of weird, unusual other types of fish that are out there. And they go by so many different names depending on where you are. But it's great. I like to do ground fishing when I'm out on the ocean a lot too. You get some really weird stuff out there. I've even brought up a lobster and I brought up a crab, just because they bite a hole and don't want to let go. And you just kind of shake them and they'll let go and they drop back down. But my favorite is trout and salmon in mountains, northern, especially northwestern Maine. That's primarily what we have. We don't have a lot of bass or no pike, no pickerel in the higher up lakes. I don't know if it's just too cold for them or what. I hope we don't get them up there because they will destroy the salmon and trout fishery. I like fishing for them, but I want lakes that don't have them too. I want to keep them more preserved. I love finding a nice river and just following along and doing some fly fishing. It's great. Nothing like seeing a fish take a dry fly off the surface, and the fight on a fly rod is amazing. A pound and a half fish that big feels huge on the right fly rod. When I've caught about a little over 5 pound brook trout in a river on a fly rod, and I'll tell you right now, man, it was like I had a friggin' massive, massive fish on. So much fun. Salmon at the dams in the fast moving water at the outlets. Boy, they fight hard, and it's a lot of finesse. You're gonna know what you're doing. You can't strong arm them. Your leader is fairly thin. The rod has a lot of flex to it, depending on what you have. They come in different weights. Same with your lines. But casting it can be tricky until you get the hang of it. It's one of those sports that you can learn how to do in a day and take a lifetime to ever master. I liken it to golf. You can go out in a day with some instruction, learn how to hit a golf ball and hit it fairly straight in a decent distance. But to master it, it's a lifetime. And fly fishing is the same way. It really is. As soon as you think you know it all, something will throw you a curve and you just don't. But fishing can be that way for everything. Even if you don't catch anything, it's like, hey, I went out, I had fun. For me, I spend money on my rod and reel only to a point. Other than fly rods, which can get very, very expensive, most of my spinning rods, I run the Shakespeare Ugly Sticks. I've had great luck with them over the last, 30 something years probably. And I like an open face spinning rod. I have a 6 foot one. I don't even know if it's quite full 6 foot. A really lightweight one. Run like 2 to 5 pound test on it, and it's great for little ponds and little brooks where you're not catching huge fish, but it's nice and easy to get in. Then I have, I think it's a 7 or 7 foot 2 one, something like that, right around there, 6'8". It's heavier. I can run up. I mean, I've run 30-pound braid on it just because I was fishing areas that kind of rocky, and the braid had good abrasion for that. But I normally run like 10-pound test on it. I have a bait caster. I struggle to get that thing set up right so I can actually cast it well. I'll use it for certain things. When I'm trolling in the boat, going nice and slow with your lines in the water. I use downriggers or lead core, but a lot of times I just use downriggers to get down 15 to 40 feet below the surface. But sometimes I want something on the surface. I use that as a surface troll rod out the back of the boat. I will be doing a video showing fishing gear and kind of my techniques on things, probably when the boat's fully uncovered. It's uncovered. I got to get it out from underneath the shelter. We might look at that some. It's filthy right now, but it's spring, so. And I won't be having that boat, I don't think, much longer. I'm trying to get rid of it, but I don't have anything big enough I want to tow it with right now. So, but just get out, enjoy it. You don't need really, really expensive equipment or lures or anything. You need something halfway decent. I find I like to buy a good rod and a decent reel to start with, and always replace the reel later on, or buy a really good reel and maybe not the best of rods, and when you have the money, buy a nicer rod. Walmart, man, for 40 or 50 bucks, you can get a pretty damn decent setup that'll last you for quite a while. I almost always replace the line if it comes with it. I try to buy one that doesn't have it because I don't have to strip it off. but I don't like the line that they put on, and sometimes you don't know how long it's been sitting around. And with monofilament line, after just so long, it just gets old and brittle and wants to snap in the worst spot at the worst possible time. And fishing line isn't super expensive. Just buy your fishing line somewhere that goes through a lot of it, so it's not sitting around. Walmart, Cabela's, Bass Pro, those kind of places tend to go through it a lot. Maybe you got an Academy Sports near you or whatever. Hey, if you got a local hardware store that sells it fast. Sunline has a date on it as to when it was manufactured, I believe, on the spool. I don't really want something that's been sitting around more than, probably 10 to 12 months, something like that. Although I have line on my reels that's older than that, so, and it still works fine. Um, as far as your lures go, you need to know what to use in your area. Is it better with live bait, worms, crawlers, you know, shiners or whatever type fish? Or is it better with, spoons or crankbait or top water? You can buy a little kit. It's going to kind of give you a little bit of everything. Again, Walmart, Amazon, places like that. $20, $30. You can have pretty much everything you need to get started. I like a good pair of needle nose pliers to get hooks out of their mouths. If you're one of those type of people that either doesn't like to grab a hold of a fish, or you've got fish in your area that got a lot of spikes and spines and things like that, get one of those, the lippers, they call it. It's like a claw. You pull back, it opens up, you get it on the lip, their mouth, the bottom lip, let go, and it'll hold it. And you can get the hook out. Watch some videos on techniques for getting the hook out easily. Don't hook yourself. Watch that. You don't need a ton of stuff. A net, depends on the type of fishing you're doing. How big are the fish? What are you doing? If you get it all the way up the dock and you get a good chance to look at it and it pops off, great. Quick, easy release. You got to see the fish. I consider that a catch. You had fun. I think if you wear glasses, it can be a little trickier, but I do like a polarized sunglasses. Again, I've seen them for $10 or $12 at places. Yeah, you can spend hundreds, but before I wore glasses, I had some that were like $20, and they worked just fine. I could see into the water, and I had Oakleys that were $200. Yeah, the Oakleys held up better and were a little better for some things, but the $20 pair worked fine. And when I inevitably lost it, stepped on them and broke them, whatever, it was okay. I'm out $20. When you do that to a pair of $200-$300 Oakleys, you're like, shit. Well, now you end up with a $20 pair because that's what you got right now to spend, if you're lucky. Obviously, you need a fishing license. If your state's going to vary, you got to check with your state. Here in Maine, if you're over 16 or 16 or older, really, you got to have a fishing license. I get why they want you to have fishing licenses to help pay for the game wardens to make sure people abide by the law. That money's supposed to go back into conservation and restocking when where needed. But I also feel as though we should be able to go fishing, without having to spend a whole ton of money to do it. Some areas, some states, my state has free fishing days. We don't need a license. Father's Day is usually one. Sometimes Mother's Day. Sometimes there's another day or two. Check your local listings. Check your state. Get a law book. In my state, they're free. If you want one, go into where they sell fishing and hunting licenses. City Hall usually. Walmart, those places. They'll hand you one. They're available online most places. Read through it. Talk to people. Go somewhere where there's a bunch of old guys fishing, and a lot of times you'll find somebody that, hey, yeah, I'll show you some stuff. They're not going to show you their best techniques a lot of times. They're not going to show you their best fishing spots a lot of times, but they're going to show you some basics. You're going to have the assholes. That's the way it is. And then go find a spot. Sometimes you got to get permission. If you use something like Onyx or something like that, that's an app. Those do cost money. But they can show you like landowner and stuff like that. Sometimes some contact info or whatever. Google Earth, Google Maps, Google Earth can give you some ideas. And maybe you can figure out, well, that's a public property or open. It might be private, but it's open to the public kind of deal. Things like that. get out there and do it. If you're fishing, especially down south and things like that, and around the water, you want to watch yourself for snakes and alligators and other harmful critters. Up here in Maine, we've got big black, like racer water snakes, and sometimes they get big and they're pretty thick. They have teeth and they can be aggressive. They're not venomous. They're not, they're more like you know, like a constrictor. They'll bite a hole and constrict whatever it is. They're not big enough to harm a human. Certainly not in a human of any real size. But they can be a little on the aggressive side. They don't really like people around. Obviously ticks and mosquitoes and stuff you want to put on your bug spray and then wear the right clothing. I like the really thin, kind of silky material, the stay dry stuff. The long sleeve, sometimes with a hood that has the like SPF 50 blocker or things like that. It doesn't have the material itself blocks the sun. I have spent big money on like Huck and Under Armour and a few other companies that make those kinds of things. I mean, I've spent like $100 or more on a shirt, and it worked, and it was okay. Sorry, my shirt rode up. This chair's, it's not leather, but it feels it. But it's kind of hot and sticky. Um, but it only lasted me a few years, and then I noticed it wasn't, after washing it enough times, it really wasn't doing great holding the sun off. It started to separate its seams. And I bought a light gray one, and it was filthy looking. So I went right back to buying where I always used to, was Sam's Club. I buy the Habitat brand ones for like $15 to $24. And okay, maybe they only last me 2 years. Well, so did that other one I spent all kinds of money on. I just buy them there, and I got a couple of them, and that's it. I'm happy. Salt Life, I think, was one of the other ones I bought. They're good. I'm not saying they're not, but they didn't hold up for me. Well, maybe that's me. Maybe I'm just really rough on stuff. But again, I bought the cheap stuff at Sam's Club. Walmart sometimes has them. Hell, my Cabela's has some of their own brand, or the Redhead brand, I think it is, something like that, that were 30, something like that. I like a hat. That's one reason. I don't really like hoods, but with that, I will sometimes pull it up to keep the sun off the back of my neck if it's beaten down that way. The spray bottle of, sunscreen or whatever. I wear shorts most of the time, so I really cover my legs and sunscreen first, let that dry some, and then my bug spray to keep the ticks off. We have quite a bit of ticks up here, but also the mosquitoes and black flies and whatever else have you. Just watch yourself. Bees like to build their hives sometimes around the water too, so. Turtles, snapping turtles, that doesn't look like fun to get bit by one of them. I don't know how often they would bite you. We have some up here. I just avoid them. I'm like, that looks like a snapping turtle. I'm not going to bug it because I've seen them bite through a broom handle before, a big one, and I don't want my finger or toes anywhere near that. Thank you. You don't need a boat. You don't need a canoe. You don't need a kayak. You don't need I've got a 20-foot center console sitting right on the other side of this wall outside. You don't need that stuff. Are they nice? Are they fun to have? Well, yeah. Yeah, it is nice having a boat. Once you know what you're doing with one, and you know the safety, and you're willing to follow the safety, have a life jacket. When I'm in my big boat, I'm not wearing my life jacket, but it's hanging on my captain's chair. I have two big pedestal captain's chairs at the center helm. Life jackets are usually hanging right on the back of that. If I'm in rough waters, or it's real busy, especially if it's really busy and choppy and rough, my life jacket goes on. I do now have the inflatable that will self-inflate, or you can pull the handle and inflate them. Those in the state of Maine, if they're not on you, they're not considered a life jacket. They can't just be sitting there. But wear a life jacket, especially if you aren't a good swimmer. There's other rules. We'll go over that sometime when we go over the boat stuff. If you're out in the ocean, the rules change with the Coast Guard stuff. Safety is always paramount. But have fun. Go out, do stuff. Take a kid fishing. Take your spouse fishing. Take your mom, your dad, your best friend, whatever. Go fishing. Chances are somebody that loves to fish and be willing to teach you if you don't already know. Now, a lot of us know how to fish. It was something that we grew up doing. It's a lot of times a cheaper and easier sport than hunting. It doesn't require a whole bunch of extra requirements. Especially as a kid, my parents weren't going to let me run around the woods with a gun at 8 years old hunting by myself. But at 8 years old to go down to the pond across the street and catch fish all day, they were fine with that. I knew how to swim. It wasn't super deep right there. Had an old man that ran a bait shop and grew shiners. And, shiners can get pretty damn big, too. The breeding stock one. So I'd go down there and catch them, and I'd just throw them back. Whatever. Sit there all day on his little dock, worm and bobber, and just catch fish one right after another. Had a blast. He didn't care. He was happy somebody was enjoying it. Old Mr. Cram. Mr. Cram. I went to school with his grandson and granddaughter. They were all right. Old man Cram was, the grandfather. He was all right. Crotchety to some, but once you get to know him, he was a cool guy. I just think it's such an enjoyable thing. It's a great way to get away from the stresses of the world. When I'm fly fishing, because fly fishing requires some focus and not like deep, but it requires some focus. And that rhythmic motion of your arm, back, back, forward, back, forward. I find my brain processes things better that way. It does something. There's a thing called EMDR. It's used for people like me with PTSD. And I don't know if there's some of that involved with it. That's going to be rhythmic motions and vibrations and stuff. It's weird. I tried it. It kind of worked. I don't know if it worked well. But I think it's just the focus and the concentration. And next thing you know, your brain's working through problems and you don't even really know it. And I'm relaxed. I try to get to an area where my phone doesn't really come in well or whatever. And I just, down there on the river, enjoying it. And especially up in the mountains, it's usually cooler. You're standing a lot of times, I'm sitting knee deep or more in water, and that water can be pretty cold, even in a hot summer day. So, waders, chest waders in the river can be an issue. If you slip and fall, and it's slimy, and those fill with water, we have had some people drown from that. We have also had some people where it didn't drown, but it carried them a long ways because it almost acted like almost like a parachute getting sucked into the air, pulling you up. It's the water. It fills them and pulls them down. If they thought, well, pop the shoulder straps off and kind of kick your way out of them, it's not always easy to do. So be careful with it. I don't use them. I like a decent pair of shoes that drain water well, with a really good tread on them. Because, like I said, it can be slimy and rocky. I'm not a big fan of sandals because the rocks, the little pebbles get underneath of it. There can be broken glass in there. There can be hooks. There can be rusty pieces of metal. I like Columbia used to make, and I used to have a couple pairs of them. Regular looking sneakers, but they had drains all down the side. They were mesh in certain areas. The toe was more of a traditional, almost a leathery type material with rubber. Really good tread. But they drained water right out of them, and they dried super fast. You might be able to get away with a pair of Crocs, but again, I don't want the moving water, and you're walking around, you get sand and little rocks underneath there, and they hurt sometimes. Crocs would be fine in a boat, probably. I don't go barefoot in my boat. I have had to take trebled hooks out of the bottom of people's feet as a firefighter and medic. No, don't want it. And if it's my own, I may not be able to get a good feel on doing it. I'm going to feel it, but I'm getting fat and old. I'm having a hard time getting my foot up that high to deal with that. Hopefully I won't be fat for much longer. I am working on that. Slowly but surely. Trying to eat better, trying to stay more active. And one reason I'm trying to do that is so when I go hunting and fishing, it's easier. I have been dealing with terrible knee problems for decades, but the last 4 or 5 days have been really bad. Really bad. I got about 40 pounds, 50 pounds to lose. I weigh like 240. I want to be 190 to 200. So that's where the doc said he wanted me years ago. Anyways, let's see. Enough about my fat ass. If you want to get out and go fishing and do stuff, I literally think for $100 or less, you can get most everything you need, and you could probably do it for 50. But with $100, you could get most everything you need. Don't worry too much about buying, like I said, needle nose pliers. Oh, go and buy the specific fishing ones. One thing about the fishing ones is usually they have a little hole towards the end of the handle where you can tie them to yourself so you don't drop them. That is nice. You can take just a regular pair of needle nose pliers from the Walmart tool department that's like $3.95. Take some decent like twine string of some sort, something fairly handle like butcher's twine or something like that, and duct tape it to the frickin' handle. Run it down the length of the handle, tie it off, run it up the inside of the grip, and tape the damn thing. Boom. If you drop them, they're not going anywhere. That's the biggest thing, so you don't lose them. A decent pocket knife. Again, $10. I like the ones that have the replaceable, like it's like a big razor blade. I have one here. I think it's in my safe, so I don't lose it, which I'll probably lose it anyways. Because when it gets dull, you pop that out, you throw it away, you click in a new one, take the safety guard off. They're super sharp, it's like a scalpel, but they work. I like them for hunting. Well, I think I will. I bought it last year and didn't get a chance to use it. By the time I bought it late in the season. Clothing wise, just protect yourself from the sun and the bugs and whatever else is creeping, crawling, slithering around. You don't have to have expensive stuff. If you don't have the SPF 50 shirts, try to stand more in the shade, stay out of the sun as much as you can. But that sun reflecting off the water can give you a wicked sunburn, too. I don't know. It rang, said spam risk, and then it hung itself up. Good. I don't want to talk to them. I keep getting these phone calls for, we can give you a loan for this or that. I don't want another loan for anything. I want to pay stuff off. I think just getting out and enjoying the day, having the mindset of, I may not catch anything, but I want to go out and just relax and have fun. That's always been my biggest thing. It's a chance to explore new areas. It's a chance to get away. You can get there. I like the fishing backpacks. God, you can get them. You can take a regular cheap backpack and do it. You need some way to hold the rod well. That's one thing. But you can rig that up too. Get on a bicycle. Get on a scooter. Whatever. Walk. And just get somewhere. Chances are somewhere in your area there's a place to wet a line and try to catch some fish. There's great videos on YouTube. There's guys men and women to subscribe to that teach you certain things. Lake Fork Guy. It's Lake Fork Guy out of Texas. He's really good. He's one of the guys from Guggen Baits from way back. I don't believe any of those guys own it anymore. I want to say his name's Justin, but I can't remember if it's something like that. Him and his wife and their 2 kids, I believe. I haven't watched him much lately. He was from Texas, but I believe they might have moved out of Texas. But anyways, he's great at fishing and stuff like that. And he's good at teaching stuff. Now, most of his stuff is more southern, but he goes walleye fishing up either Michigan or Canada or somewhere. He kind of goes all over and does stuff. Flair, he's another one of the guys from that same group. There's just a ton of them out there. There really is. And God, I'm sure that there's tens of thousands of them that just give basic tips. How to tie the right knot. Which I can do. If people want to know, I can show you how to do what I do. Is it the best? Nope. But it's worked for me for nearly 50 years now of fishing. Voicemail. I just love it. And I want to see people get out and do it. I want to see people enjoy it. So I'm filming this. Like I said, it's Tuesday, May 5th. Right now it's almost 4:30 in the afternoon, and yeah, we're still at 73. They said it was supposed to hit about 70. It's definitely that plus out there. This will go up Wednesday. I'm kind of thinking an upload schedule is going to be like Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. I, it may vary some. You may get a Saturday and a Tuesday and a Thursday upload, or God only knows what. But I'd like to try to get to three a week. Shouldn't be too hard. The longer I go, I got to find new topics. I want people to comment. Hey, I want to know about this. Hey, can we talk about this? What's your thoughts on this? You may say, hey, I know a lot about this subject. What do you know about it? I'll be honest and either say, well, I know a bit, or I know quite a lot, or I know absolutely nothing. I'm an idiot about it. Which is a lot of things. I'm not going to lie. I know a lot about a little bit of things. I know quite a lot about, quite a bit about a lot of weird things. And there's a lot of things out there that I don't know jack shit about. That's okay. Ain't no in hell we're ever going to know everything. As you can see, like I said, I set this whole camera up, went in, yep, that's the shot I want, X'd out on my camera control, and then, because I always forget to hit apply settings. So, those of you who do watch Amy, my wife, and I on She Bangles, recognize this setup. Those of you who don't, well, yeah, this is her setup. Because, like I've said before, I don't own a big enough place to have studios set up all over the place. Literally in the corner of my bedroom. My whole bedroom is not this color. We did have somebody on her channel and we said we're in the bedroom. It's like, I don't know if I'd want my bedroom that dark. It's literally, well, from the tip of my finger that way, 3 feet, it ends at a window. There's a big set of atrium glass doors here that go out onto the deck. At the top of it, you might even be able to see there's some white up there that I didn't even finish painting there. It's this corner. Although I like it. I like dark colors. I got to touch it up because my chair keeps hitting it. But everything was white and it made it, the camera just bleached everything out. This gives it a little better. But no, I want to get down to 3 days a week, or stay at 3 days a week. We'll have to see, holidays and, like big weeks of Christmas or stuff. Yeah, maybe there's 2. Maybe there's 4. I don't know if I can get stuff done. We hit 10 subscribers today, which is kind of cool. I don't even remember when I put this channel out. It's been a week and a half, and I got 10. That's awesome. I love it. I thank every one of you for subscribing and watching, comment. I try to read. I'll read comments as much as I can. I'm a Gen Xer, so I got pretty thick skin, You want to roast me? Go ahead. I can roast back. That's fine. But just get out there and have fun. Enjoy it. Do something. Oh, damn spam risk again. I went onto this website and I put in my information one time to get. I was looking at taking a personal loan to combine a couple of little things, like 8 months ago, and now I must get 15 or 20 phone calls a day. I know it's got nothing to do with fishing, but it kind of does, because it's that stressful shit that makes me want to go out and go fishing where my cell phone doesn't come in, and just be one with the water. I did mention something about, you don't need a boat, you don't need a canoe. Fishing from shore is the cheapest and easiest way. Maybe there's a dock, maybe there's a pier. If you're ocean fishing, now your gear has to change a bit. Now it gets more expensive. Now $100 is probably going to buy you a cheap rod and reel, and then the line. Depending on what you might be catching, maybe you're looking at 20, 30 pound test. Maybe you're looking at 60, 80, 100 pound test. With backer and all that gets really expensive. But you can also do it with lightweight gear right from shore, catching the bait, quote unquote bait fish. Mackerel, pollock, little things like that they weigh a pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds. They're fun as hell. And you can catch them all day long. So they're usually in huge, massive schools of fish. So, when they come through, you jig for them or you cast something out or whatever you need to do. depending on where you are and what you're going after. But when you want to go after the bigger stuff, your gear gets bigger and heavier and more expensive. When you really want to get out farther, that's when you get into a boat. You know, canoes and kayaks are fine close to shore, small bodies of water, certain rivers. And you start moving up, aluminum boats, and, up through to, hell, my 20 foot are small compared to a lot of them out there in the harbor. I'm bigger than some, but a lot smaller than most. And I'm not even getting into the big commercial vessels that we have come through, big oil tankers and freighters and, Coast Guard ships and mega yachts. Whatever reason, want to come to Portland, Maine. Of course, I don't live in Portland, but it's not too far from here. But that's the area where I go put my boat in near there. So I'm fishing in the harbor. Done really well. Haven't been out in years though on the harbor. Just haven't had a chance to. Been doing more lake and pond and brook fishing. Fortunate to live in an area where we have a wide variety of fishing. Obviously, if you live much more inland, you're obviously not fishing the ocean. Well, find something. There's always something there. So, until then, good luck. Get out there and get a line wet. As an old fisherman who was also an artist used to say, tight lines. When you got a fish on, keep your line tight. So, I will talk to you guys soon in another video. And I've already got another one I got to edit and get up. I don't know if it's going up before or after this. So, we'll get them done. And thanks for being here. Behave if you can. Stay safe. See you soon. Bye.